are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WHOA GNV Podcast, the Coronavirus Sessions, where our temporary mission is to save as many businesses and jobs as possible by sharing how your fellow business owners and professionals are navigating the impact of COVID-19. I am your host, Collin, and my co-host is Michael Dees.
I feel like you almost went into the English accent again.
Yeah, I had fun with Tom the other day, huh? When I went into the English accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I butchered it, so I apologize to Tom for that.
It was okay.
I probably won't try that again.
I'd say you get a solid B- on it.
Okay, all right, good. Well, let's thank some sponsors. Yeah, I'm so grateful for our sponsors' support of the show, you guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Gainesville Harley-Davidson. You guys have heard us say it again and again, but Kevin, Emily, and the entire team at Gainesville Harley are great friends of ours. Gainesville Harley is open as an essential business to help meet the parts, service, and transportation needs of the riding community. They have several options for pickup and drop-off services and have initiated a detailed and frequent cleaning routine to help staff and customers stay healthy. I absolutely love these guys. Reach out to Emily over there at this is her email address, by the way, at mem@gainesvilleharley.com, or call them at 352-331-6363. And if you're ever passing through Tallahassee country, and not really sure why you would ever want to do that, but if you were going to do so, definitely stop in and see Tallahassee Harley. They just ended up buying that location, and I know Kevin's been spending a lot of time up there. I'm super excited. I can't wait to have them back in the future and kind of hear about this growth and this opportunity, this expansion, and the stuff that's happening in their world. But definitely go check them out. So there you go, Gainesville Harley. Thank you so much for your support. Appreciate you guys. That's
right. We also have, again, Kyle Cohan and the team at Leonardo's Mill Hopper, our friends over there. We're going to change up the script a little bit. I know we've talked about them through several other sponsorships, but the weekly specials they have going on are incredible. They've got like manicotti Monday, lasagna Tuesday. It's like chicken parm Wednesday. Crazy. Plus, it all comes with an order of garlic knots, which are my favorite. Obviously, if you see that on Instagram, I still they had this like video of the slow garlic butter drizzle all over the garlic knots.
He's like cruel with it. Like he's like,
yeah, it really.
It's like it's like slow motion. It's like just drizzle, right? Like, oh man,
I love the erotic food pictures. It's my favorite. But rumor has it Lasagna Tuesday's blowing up. So give them a call, 352-376-2001, or you can order online at leonardosmillhopper.com. You can also use 352delivery.com if you want to have it delivered. And heck, maybe one night we'll send Collin around. He can deliver. I'm sure he'll probably say it's only for podcast family, or I'll throw in some kind of caveat. But we'll send him out there to deliver some pies.
What if you and I like did like a podcast night with Leonardo's and then like let everybody order and like we just delivered the pies?
That'd be great, dude. You could dress up as Deadpool.
I could. I do have a Deadpool costume.
You have Deadpool deliver some Leonardo's pizza. That'd be great. Anyway,
you guys, everybody, definitely tell these sponsors that you heard about them on our podcast, because we really need their money. We need them. Plain and simple. We need them to make sure that episodes, really great episodes like this one, continue to come out. So no, we're really grateful for them and their support. I'm super blessed to be in this community and have such a fantastic community of support of everything that we do with the dealership and with this podcast. So support our sponsors, you guys. And now let's get into the show. I want to introduce to you my friend Jeff Burdge, Director of Talent Management at Exactech. Jeff, what is up, man? How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Collin. Welcome to my back porch. I really appreciate you coming here and seeing us virtually, staying with the complete distance that we're supposed to. And Michael, nice to meet you. Thanks again for coming to the back porch. You may see a cameo of my dog Copper pop through here, especially if anyone even has the audacity to walk by our backyard. He will make an appearance and do his job of warning us that there's humans elsewhere. But looking forward to it. It should be a fun few moments here with you guys.
Yeah, man, I really like your back porch. I mean, you have definitely got a cool setup. You spend a lot of time out there working or what?
Yeah, it's a small house, very small house.
Yeah?
And because, we're kind of on the downside of kids and all that. We're grandparents now and all that. So we have been able to kind of downsize. Well, didn't expect to be working at home all the time with my wife. There's the dog now, so there's little Copper. With my wife and our two adult daughters who have come back because of COVID-19 and have quarantined here. So we have to all find our little spots so we can do our work. So mine has been the back porch for the most part. And so it's now become my office, and kind of wish this was my permanent office with the way it looks and the nice breeze and the weather. So it's been a pretty nice situation without a doubt.
How has Copper adjusted to having all these people here full time?
Well, Copper expects everybody to be in the same room at the same time. So it really frustrates him when he sees someone over there and someone over there and all that, because he's like, why, if you guys would all come together, then I don't have to run around and follow everybody. I can just be where I'm supposed to be, which is surrounded by everyone at all times. So that stresses him out until we allow him into the pool. Now, when we open up the pool and let him get into it, then that's his haven. And he will swim all day long until the moment where he just passes out tired. So he thinks that's what we're here to do, is to let him into the pool. So now he's marching back and forth by the pool going, why can't you let me in?
The dogs are going to go into like a deep state of depression when everything goes back to normal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're going to be tearing everything up. Oh, yeah.
Feeling for the animals when this thing is over. So, so Jeff, like, why don't you tell us a little bit about your position at Exactech and kind of like the initial impacts this thing has had on you guys? You know, like we're in May now, but hey, you know, like this, you know, couple months in, 2.5 months in, like,
yeah,
you know, how did things start going down for you guys? What were some of the initial steps that were taken, and just kind of general summary, if you will?
Sure. Absolutely. So at Exactech, what Exactech does is we make implants for patients. So knees and hips and shoulders, ankles, those types of products. So in the orthopedic industry, and we're a global company. So we're in a bunch of different countries, and we have employees that are in across the world. We started seeing this shift in when COVID really started impacting. And it started, of course, in Asia, and then Europe got hit, and then the United States. Well, what happened was, one of the first things that happened in all those locations was a cancellation of what is considered voluntary surgeries. So not anything, you know, trauma related or cancer related or anything, but truly around, you know, surgeries that we just decide, hey, it's time for me to get this taken care of. And total joint replacement is considered that type of surgery. It's not life threatening, but it is life enhancing. So all of our business just kind of went down and really impacted us immediately, extremely fast. And we produce the implants. We don't just design them and then have some other company somewhere else make them. We actually produce them here in the state of Florida, here in Gainesville and in Sarasota. So we have manufacturing facilities. We have packaging facilities, quality inspection, so on and so forth. All is done within what we would say our four walls. So we immediately, our business really took an impact and got, you know, hurt pretty bad from the very beginning. So we immediately knew we had to do something. And in order for this company, which has never laid off an employee since it began in 1985, had to really say, okay, what is it that we're going to do to make sure that this company stays viable through this, with all the question marks, right? We still didn't know what was going to happen. We still don't know what's really going to happen long term. But when we saw elective procedures stop, we had to react. And to me, that was the important thing, was what can we do to preserve the company, but make some really tough decisions to do that. And we have always prided ourselves on being a pure orthopedic company. We didn't have a bunch of other companies that we owned or things that we were involved in. So our business got impacted immediately, and it was severe. And so we had to take some of those steps. So unfortunately, we did do what's considered a reduction in workforce. And we did have to eliminate some positions. Very uncomfortable choice for us, because that's just not in our nature. And so that was difficult. But what we have seen is, now that things are starting to come out of it, that those decisions that had to be made have strengthened the organization. It has made it more resilient through this, and we think it's going to really be something that to kind of catapult us into a great growth stage coming out of this. Just again, unfortunate that we had to even address it.
Yeah, you said that, you know, you saw what was happening kind of overseas, or like the organization did. I mean, did you guys feel like you had some, it sounded like you had some heads up. I mean, you guys were paying attention to that kind of stuff. I mean, I feel like at least a lot of the small local businesses were very much like coronavirus is here, closed, like here today, closed tomorrow type thing. How much like lead time did you guys feel like you had, you know, when you were looking at those other locations and stuff? Was it like a week, 2 weeks, a month?
Looking back on it, no. Looking back on it, it was probably about a 14-day kind of when we saw. We do have a location in Japan, so they were the first ones that we said, "Uh-oh, you know, something's happening." And then we also have locations in Italy, which we know they have been, you know, really devastated by this this virus. So that was our second one, and then right after that, Spain. So all these places that have been really hotbeds of this are in where we are, right? So we had to see, we saw it hit immediately and then quickly, and then of course the cascade into the United States. So you would think that, oh, we've heard about this virus, you know, in China kind of since the beginning of the year, and then it really didn't affect the United States until March. We didn't have that kind of lead time. We never thought that that surgeries would be canceled. We never thought of the, you know, the impact that it would have within actual hospital facilities in and of themselves. So we didn't have that kind of foresight into thinking, okay, let's start, you know, reeling things back or changing things back in January, February. It hit us literally in March like everybody else. And until we realized the impact that it was going to have on production, that's when we started saying, okay, hold on, this is really going to affect our business in the long term. And so that's when we had to really make those really tough calls that affected a lot, you know, a lot of people.
Yeah. How many team members do you guys have? Like, how large is the organization?
It fluctuates. Yeah, it fluctuates. We have in Gainesville itself, we have about 525, 550 right now. Yeah. Okay. And then globally, that's a bigger number, but sales forces are odd, and there's you know, the number kind of changes around. Yeah, but it's right now in Gainesville about 550. So
I mean, how much of a decrease in sales, or like, I mean, with all these surgeries being gone, but what was the financial impact of that? And I guess we're really trying to get to that with the question is, you know, how is the business sustaining if there is no, you know, is it just reserves, like, or what? Sure.
So, well, one of the things that, you know, can't really go into the sales numbers and say what it is that we lost, but it was a substantial amount. And it happened so fast at the end of March and the beginning of April, that's when we had to make that decision. So we had about a 10% decrease in that reduction in force. So that in and of itself, you know, with payroll and benefits and all those things, was a significant way for us to try to come out of this, right? We also took reduction in pay. So the entire organization took pay cuts, and it depends on where your position was in the organization, how much of a pay cut you took. But every single employee in the organization took some type of pay cut in the United States. So those things combined with some other cost saving things, you know, if maybe we had some really big projects that we were going to do that we said, well, we can't do those in 2020 now. We have been able to decrease all those expenses and really kind of shore up financially where we think we can manage through the rest of this year, and until we feel like everything's going to pick back up. Well, I can tell you now that since those elective surgeries have started to come back online, our numbers are moving in the direction that we have planned. They're moving in the direction that we have projected financially, that we see that we're going to come out of it and be able to hopefully make that one cut, what we had to do, you know, really difficult decision made, and then move forward. So we look like our plan is on track right now.
I know that like you're really big into leadership development, the growth of the people within the organization. Maybe you can comment on like the cultural impact that this has had, and how do people look at growth opportunities right now with something like this going on, or is it just
Sure.
kind of everybody stay in place and keep chugging along? Like, I'm just kind of curious about that. How do you navigate that as
Sure. Well, you can imagine at first it was a big change, right? So at first, team leaders and people that were in leadership positions in the organization, first you got to make those tough decisions and make those tough calls, right? So what are we going to do? What are we going to reduce? What are some of these programs we can't complete because of this? New product innovation and all that kind of had to be paused, right? So first you have to make those decisions knowing that we're working in an environment that we're not used to working in. So do you then say, okay, as a team leader, my whole team is just going to press pause and we're not going to grow and we're not going to do new things. We're just going to kind of tread water for a while? Or are you one of those leaders that say, this is an opportunity that we can really do some fantastic things that we probably weren't going to have time to do because the whirlwind of the day would not allow us those kind of development and growth opportunities that we see now as a team or as even individuals? So what I did was really started leaning into our team leaders around, okay, we're dealing with some change here. What are we going to do and how are we going to react and who are we going to be when we come out of it? And, growth is a really interesting thing. Growth can be because you're forced into it or because you choose to do it. And I am definitely more from the school of choosing to do it. I do not like being in the victim role, where we call that being below the line, where, there's this line that below the line, everything is everybody else's fault. Well, what do you mean you want me to do that? You didn't say that in your email, and, the pointing finger and that type of thing. We can point fingers at COVID all day long. We can blame COVID for everything that's going wrong in our organization. Anybody that decides to leave the organization, we say, well, the reason they're doing that is because of COVID. We could do that all day long, or we can go above the line. And we can say, here's what we're going to do because of the situation we're in. We're not going to look at it as this complete negative thing. How about because of COVID, which is the line, that above the line, we're going to do some things differently. We're going to be more effective in what we do. We're going to invest in the right things. We're going to invest in our people in a different way. When we start recruiting people, we're going to recruit them differently in the future to come into our organization than what we've done before. We can kind of use this as that watershed moment to change things. And that way you're not a victim. And that way you have control and you have ownership of what's going on. That is what our team leaders are really hearing from our CEO and all the way through the entire organization is, we are not going to be victims of this. We are going to actually propel ourselves into a totally different stratosphere because of this. And that's the kind of where I get really excited. Obviously, I'm getting all animated, my arms flying everywhere, because this is where I find the excitement. That's right. Because if not, then you do get into this, I'm just going to sit here and continue to take this blow and this blow and this blow and this blow instead of saying no, where I'm going to push back on this. My team is going to be stronger because of it. My team is going to see that they can flourish in this time. And then that's what you do. As a leader, you have to set that groundwork. You have to really show people how that looks, and then what are those things we're going to put in place to make it happen. And we're in an odd situation at Exactech because we have an entire part of our organization needs to be there, and they have been deemed important people in our organization and actually the government. We've been working this whole time in producing product because we knew when this COVID and some of the restrictions were released, we had to have product available. So we've had people in our operation centers working this whole time. Then you have a whole nother group of people that we've said, okay, don't come in anymore. right? We want you to stay home and do your job from home. So then how in the world do you balance culture with that, right? You've got all these people that are coming in doing all this really important work for us, skilled labor, and, these people that you just can't replace. And then you've got a whole nother group that you say, if we aren't doing all the back office stuff and making sure that all the electricity stays on and does all the things that have to happen in order for our skilled labor and these people that are fantastic can go and do what they need to do so we can help patients. How in the world do you balance that? How do you keep everybody engaged, and how do you feel, how do they feel, both sides of that feel valued? And that is where that leadership component comes into place, where you are leaning into what your people need, who your people are, and what are the things we can deliver for them to make sure that stays kind of foremost at what we do on a daily basis. And that is where it gets really difficult.
Yeah. I'm just thinking we're such a, it's so, I compare like what we're going through to an organization of like 500 plus. And I'm like, I mean, you can't even really compare, but I'm like thinking, even on a smaller scale, I'm like, man, the service department, like that's like right now is so essential. Mm-hmm. Like we got people working on scooters at the scooter dealership that have to fix scooters. They need to be able to work on scooters. So they're at the dealership, like doing that work.
Absolutely.
And then like the sales and admin team, we're, like you said, we're, at home, we're working, negotiating sales, doing all these things behind the scenes, really keeping the lights on so that they can do that work. So, I mean, it is similar in a way, but like,
it is. And most companies are dealing with that.
What's that?
I said, and it is, because most companies are dealing with some dynamic like that, right? There's someone that needs to be in the office to make sure everything works. Even if you're from a technology company standpoint, right? There's still somebody in there that has to make sure that all the components are working and happening. But then your salespeople or your admin people, your finance and accounting people, they don't necessarily need to be in the office all the time to get their work done, because now we do have technology at our fingertips that allows us to do that. But then how do you continue to build camaraderie between those groups? How does everybody know that because you get to experience something that I don't get to experience, that we're both kind of going through the battle together? Because the battles that we go through together is what builds those relationships. Those tough times that you can go back in a year from now and say, man, remember when we had to do this and remember when we had to do that? If neither of those groups can come together and kind of say, we have the similar story for this, then what happens is you start having even a broader kind of valley between the two. And you don't want that in an organization. You want those things to be together. You want everybody to experience those things together with their own story around it. And that is, to me, the key, is allowing those stories to be told. What is it that our manufacturing group is dealing with today? Let that story be told to the people that are now saying, you've got to be home and you still have to be as productive as you were in the office, but you still need to babysit your kids and you need to deal with this home thing and that home thing, and food and, whatever it might be that you weren't dealing with before. How do those stories get passed along? So we're doing a lot of communities where we can kind of communicate amongst people and tell stories and show work locations where you've got your computer sitting on a box as your new desk, right? Where everybody at work is trying to do the job they're doing, wearing masks and personal protective equipment. And so we're sharing all of those things within the organization so everybody gets a sense of what it is we're dealing with. We did an extensive interview with our general manager of Italy. When they were really going through the deep, tough part of this, our CEO and our general manager of Italy did a Zoom call or a WebEx call, or, pick your format there. They did one, and it was really great to hear their perspective of what Italy was going through. So we had a sense of the same battle that they're battling. And that's how you keep that culture part moving in a direction that you had when everybody was kind of in it all together at the same time, same work environment, that type of thing.
Yeah. Do you think that things, when it goes back to normal, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But like, Now that you've had so many people working remote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever any chance at all that you figure out, you're talking about bringing these people together, these different elements of the organization together, you figure out a way to do that and like maintain some sort of remote lifestyle? Or is everybody back in an office and everybody's working again? Like, because I'm going to be really interested to see how many businesses go through this process and say, you know what, like we could save a lot of money if we put, if we didn't have this big building and all these offices and we put more people at working remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I see that definitely with even local business, smaller local businesses.
Yeah.
I could totally see a lot of restaurants, whether even Western restaurants, thinking that maybe we don't need a dining room. People are now, they have now adapted to the fact that like takeout and delivery is a great way to get dinner every night. So I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Just some of your thoughts there. Is there any chance that Exactech comes out of this with a more remote lifestyle?
We're working on that now. We're kind of analyzing where we are in that, because it's interesting if you think about it. We have a big number of the people that we work for are engineers. So these are the people that are designing these products for patients, or the instruments to put these products into patients, right? So there is no way to do that at home. I don't care how cool your shop is in your garage, right? There is no way for an engineer to truly go in and say, is this product the right product, for a patient? We have an entire test lab at Exactech where we take these products, and the Food and Drug Administration says, a knee has to operate a certain way. And so we have to be able to test those things. Those kind of things are never going to be able to be done in somebody's home, right? So there are certain aspects where at times it can be done at home, but other times you're going to have to be in there and you're going to have to roll your sleeves up and get busy with developing a product. That's what we're looking at now, is how does that work? Is there a way that, someone like myself in human resources, do I need to be in there every day? We don't know yet. Do our regulatory or compliance people, or all the things that we have to do they need to be in the office having meetings with people here in Gainesville every day, or can it not be? And so right now we're kind of in this flux of, let's balance it. Let's figure out what we do need to do in-house and what can be done outside. And then how do we support that, right? So how do you at that point give them, those people that are going to be home, or what we would call a hybrid work situation, how is it that they're going to be safe moving forward? How are we ensuring that when they do come into the office that there is plenty enough space and we're not cramming everybody into one general location? Well, that's what we're looking at right now, is what does that look like?
Sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that there's going to be a level of expectation now that we've all gone through this and that we go back to normal? They'll be like, man, like, I can work from home. Like, I've done it for the last 2 months. I can handle, 70% of this job. Right. Like, why not let me work from home? Like, have you guys even thought about, like, will there be that expectation and how to, like, manage that?
Oh, yeah. We're looking at that hard, because the ultimate responsibility of an organization like ours is, do we have all the things in place that is going to allow us to help the most amount of patients that we can possibly help? Can we get our technology and all of the cool things that we have in the hands of surgeons so they can help patients? If that is still your number one goal of a company like ours, all the other stuff, all the back office stuff, all the other things should be able to adapt to what that is. Historically, that has meant everybody coming together and we're all going to work on this. Every marketing person, every customer operations, everybody come together and let's do it all together. Well, what we're seeing now is that may not be the right answer. So because of the situation that we're in, because of still having our purpose in mind, we're seeing that there are maybe some ways that we can change that. So is the organization adaptable to do that? That is where I kind of, when we start talking about all this, is around the growth thing, right? Can the company grow in a direction that allows for that type of workforce that is hybrid, so to speak? Are we able to sustain who the company is and keep those values and that purpose still moving forward? And right now we're seeing that we're responding really, really well to it. And so we think that there is going to be some type of change. We just don't know what that is and to what extent, because we still don't know what we're dealing with on the outside of this thing. We know what we're dealing with today. And today we are doing a fantastic job with achieving all the goals that we have set for us. And so right now we feel pretty confident that there will be some changes there, but we don't know what they're going to be. And we don't know if it's going to be a wide sweeping or if it's going to be by group or department or what have you. But the nice thing is that we have a group of executives and leaders, and the company as a whole is willing to test the waters. We're not afraid to say, let's give it a shot and then reevaluate. Let's really give it a true effort and then say, hey, this didn't work, and so we're going to have to change it. And our employees are adaptable enough to do that. They're not so set in their ways that it has to be done one way and one way only, because we've been thrown this big curveball anyways. So people are learning that they're going to have to do things differently, just like we all have in our personal lives. And so we're just trying to kind of emulate that at the organization.
Yeah, I'm gonna be excited to kind of to see what does happen. But I guess that's what, going through these trials and seeing how everybody's like really navigating it on the go, figuring it out as we go along. I think it's really that flexibility obviously makes for a great organization, right? But it'll be interesting, a year from now, 2 years from now, to look back at this moment and be like, yeah, look at all the things that have impact, all the things that we changed in our business because of that one, that pandemic we went through 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm going to let Michael wrap us up.
I was going to say,
final question.
kind of still on that topic, because that was something that was on my mind too. I'm going to be fascinated to see how we do come back from this, because I think there's a whole lot of people that are getting a taste of like a work-life balance, integration, whatever your term of choice there is, that maybe they didn't have before, and it is going to be a tough adjustment if they have to get thrust back into a normal again, work life. But there's also going to be those people that, like you said, work in the lab, or for us that work on the scooters, that don't have that choice to be able to work remotely. Yeah. So then it becomes this person now gets the ability to work home, and they could start comparing themselves to, but this person does. So then you just, ruin it for everybody and say, no, everybody's coming back to work. I think that whole concept is just going to be fascinating to see how we adjust. Because I do think that a lot of people are getting an integration, and it doesn't matter whether it's an entry-level employee or an executive. I think there's a lot of people that are starting to, they're enjoying what it's like to some degree of being able to work from home or see their kids, or, see Copper every day, whatever it may be, and get to have that, maybe more healthier integration.
Yeah. Yeah, and we want to make sure that we are we're hearing what they're saying. So what those employees are saying about their own kind of surprising themselves, how well they did, and how the balance worked for them. We want to hear that, right? And we want to really listen to what that has done for them truly from a work satisfaction standpoint. Because if you can release some of that stress that they may be dealing with, let's just say they have an elderly parent living with them, and before they leave the parent and have to come to work, and they come home and something has gone on, or the parent feels disconnected, or they're dealing with whatever they might be dealing with a parent that's at home that's elderly. And during this time, they've been able to be there with them, and the parent is now flourishing, and the parent is doing so much better because someone is there more often. As an organization, we want to hear that. And maybe those work hours for them changed a little bit. Maybe they were able to work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock, and then they needed to take a 2 or 3 hour break, but then work from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night worked out really well for them in this situation. We want to be able to listen to that and say, can this job be done that way? Can that job be done with those kind of parameters released where we say, oh, you need to be in the office from 8 to 5 and you better be, you be at our beck and call and that whole thing. Maybe if we can change that and see that work satisfaction levels rise when we allow for adaptability, and the nuance of their job actually just went from this level to this level because they're now seeing that they can be more productive in a different way than they were before. If we think about it, when you look at Mad Men and shows like that from years gone by, the water cooler thing has changed, right? People would come in, they'd meet at the water cooler at 8 o'clock, talk about what's going on, they'll work all day, and then they meet back at the water cooler at 4 or 4:30 to wrap the day up, right? All of that has changed. What if this kind of technology that you and I and this guy we're talking about on today is the new water cooler, where you're checking in with your team once a day at this water cooler, but then allowing them to handle their business the way in their job and the things that they have on their to-do list in a way that is more conducive for them than it is for the structure of the work day in the 60s and 70s. Maybe it's time to change that, and maybe this is the way to do it. I don't know yet, but all I do know is we're trying it, and my team is trying it. We've actually become, I understand the people that work directly for me better now than I ever did when we were sitting in a workspace, because I'm putting my phone down. I'm not checking email when I'm doing the water cooler time now. Before, someone would come into my office, my computer screens are there, and I'm still kind of doing my thing while I'm kind of half listening to them. That stuff's changing. It's changing rapidly. So why don't we embrace that? Again, not be victims, but why don't we embrace that and say, okay, how can we be better because of it? And that's, to me, the beauty of situations like this. This is true change management. When you go into the scholastic side of change management, that's what this is. The change is here. Am I either going to accept it and do something about it, or am I going to let it affect me and just slow me down or stop me completely, or am I going to embrace it and do something differently with an idea that we're going to be better because of it? If we can do that as an organization, Exactech's going to flourish. They really, really will. And so that's what we're looking at from an HR standpoint and an executive standpoint. What do we need to put in place to allow it to occur?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Dude, this has been fascinating. Like Mike, I'm thinking just some of the stuff that we've, I would say up to this point, we've had a lot of the smaller businesses on, in terms of now, like I'm like, okay, let me transition a little bit. I'm trying to get a couple of the larger organizations, on the show just to kind of hear about the impact and some of the changes that they're doing. Cause I got to imagine, especially from a cultural standpoint, like something like this definitely has a significant impact. So it sounds like, it sounds like you guys have been navigating it fairly well given the circumstances, and it's super, super interesting to me for sure. So grateful for your time today.
Sure, man. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
We got to wrap it up, but Mike, anything else?
Yeah, I'll go one last one. A lot of people, they've been able to create a little bit of time with this, whether it's going back and forth the meetings that have been kind of shelved and everything like that. Have you found more time, and if so, how have you invested it?
To be completely honest with you, I have not found more time, because I do a lot of one-on-one leadership development with our leaders. So I work a lot with our leaders around ways for them to either come out of a touchy situation, or they feel like they're getting into one, or whatever. So I'm doing a lot of video conferences with team leaders around what can my next steps be. So downtime has not necessarily been part of what I've found during the COVID-19 crisis. I've actually feel like I'm probably putting in more hours, because it's so much more intentional. There's no longer the opportunity for me to be walking down the hallway and bump into somebody and then sit down for a couple of minutes and have a call, or a talk, excuse me. Now it's a scheduled call, right? And so they're going to fill up that 30 minutes or 45 minutes with a bunch of information from me, and I'm going to give them a bunch of feedback and a bunch of ideas, which we would never have done before, right? We would just have done it in passing. So the downtime side of what my job has really been more of, I have to take it. And if I'm going to take that and say, all right, I got to shut this computer down, I've got to get off my phone, I've got to quit doing emails for a while, it's what am I doing in those moments that I have? If it is around, okay, how am I going to refresh and kind of recharge my batteries? Well, then I'll go help my wife with a project, or I'll go do something else with my family to allow me to do that. Where before it was, you're driving home and disconnecting from work, right? So whenever, it was automatic that you were pulling out of it. And then it was a conscious effort to jump back into it. When you work from home, and I did it for 20 years before I doing what I'm doing now, you have to shut it down. You have to turn this thing off and your computer off and everything off and disconnect, or it just kind of monopolizes your time because it's always right there. And that is where people are struggling, because they feel like, since it's here, I might as well go in there and do another hour. Well, that turns into 3. So we've been working a lot with our team around time management. Be in and be mature with your time. So being mature with your time means I'm going to schedule these 3 hours to take care of this task. If I'm not done with it, then I may need to shut it down and go do something else, because if not, I'm just going to drive myself crazy. So downtime I haven't necessarily found, more time to start needlepoint or anything, but it has been a learning experience. I can tell you that, because I've never been in a situation where everybody has had to adapt. It'd be different if you were the only one working from home, but when you see the majority, and we're about 50% of our workforce is virtual right now compared to on site. It has been a trip.
Okay. It's good. I mean, just all of this and just all the things that have been going on for you guys has been great. I think it's going to be super valuable to our listening audience for sure. It's been for me. I could keep going, honestly. I've been writing questions on all these Post-its. All I had was a Post-it pad, and I just keep writing questions down. But definitely, we'll have to do a catch up at some point in the future and to hear how things have happened.
Sure.
So cool.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Thanks so much again for joining us, man.
Sure. My pleasure.
Definitely appreciate your time, and, just keep on keeping on, I guess that's all we can really do
it, man.
Through a time like this. So, well,
that's
everybody,
right.
World, Gainesville, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Thank you again to our sponsors. Thank you to the community for your support. Just super grateful for all of you guys. This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Give us your best whoa.
Whoa.
We will see you later, everybody. Bye.